if I may say so. I mean, I don't think I know any guy worthy of the name, so to speak, who hasn't at one time or another in his life said to another guy, you heard the lady, leave her alone. Shut up. Move on, you know. I mean, that's part of what it is to be a man, is to be able to do that. And therefore, I think, and by the way, can I mention a piece I've written, since everyone else is plugging their stuff?
Go ahead.
I've got a piece coming up soon about the work of a feminist author who isn't here, but who I admire very much, called Elizabeth Fox Genovese. And she's reviewed you, in fact, hasn't she? I think so. Now, she says one of the reasons why so many women are not describing themselves as feminists these days is because it's not relevant to them, because the struggle for existence for women at the moment is quite grim, and it's usually centered on the very important fact of bringing up children. And not only can you not get hold of a kid without a man, but you have a very hard time bringing one up without a guy. And many of these women, I think, of the working class, if I can use another phrase that's hardly ever heard on TV, like clitoris and penis and so on.
Working class?
Working class. They often hear that. You know, they think of feminism as something that maybe is bad-mouthing their brothers and their husbands and their fathers and other hard-working guys who they know and quite like.
This is another complaint also.
With men sitting around in the woods barking at the moon and beating their chests in sweat lodges.
But
that's not
just wait a few seconds. That's the next thing that's going to happen.
What?
Well, we've been waiting for a men's movement for a long time.
The enfranchising I was talking about is going to happen. Men will say, well, if women can go to the dean if they feel they've been felt up or whatever, I'm going to start complaining too. Everyone's going to start being a victim.
Have the Menendez
men will want a share in the victimhood business. It will be unstoppable and completely negative. It's very boring.
Does the victim business, is that what, I mean, this is about...
sense of both the angelic and the demonic in human nature and female nature as well.
I don't find it as easy to speak as if I was a category as you do, and I can't say we
Which category are you in?
But I'm obviously in the category of straight white male person.
Right.
It's when people start talking about power, about the power that this gives me, that I begin to wonder if slightly too much of a compliment isn't being paid. Rather, as when some women talk about the penis as a sort of mighty engine or cruise missile or something, you think, well, I wonder where they get this idea. But I do think there is, and the reason why I will speak for what I think many male, straight, white types do fear, is that there must be some relationship between this empowerment talk that they keep hearing and potency. There's got to be some hidden subliminal connection, some latent connection. There's got to be, they think. So they back off a bit.
So as women began to say, someone said that this whole thing has two parts. One, women are saying, I'm going to enjoy sex, and I'm going to enjoy sex on my own terms, and I'm going to make demands. And you're saying when that takes place, therefore, it affects, it goes to the heart of male performance and male potency and those kinds of issues.
The temptation is then going to be that of self-pity. You'll say, well, actually, you know, I'm not all that powerful, and sometimes I don't feel all that potent.
Right.
And the male organ, for heaven's sake, is actually rather capricious, vulnerable,
So this is why it's especially...
I'm losing my thread here.
Stop. Why are you both are sort of relishing and reveling in the fact that he's talking about male performance and male potency?
Male vulnerability.
And male vulnerability.
Women also want this organ to be in good shape, is what I'm saying. Because without testosterone, I'm sorry to say, none of us could be here.
Oh, well, that's very Pogli-esque. I mean, I don't think that, male testosterone has...
I don't find that any great insult, actually. But I mean, if
civilization
I do think you don't have to be Camille Paglia, or indeed me, to say it's a truism. I'm making an animal rights point, basically. I mean, we are an animal species. Right. We are programmed to reproduce. Men particularly are programmed to inseminate. They can't, so to speak, help it. That's just as well, really, because without testosterone and erections and other things of the sort, none of us would be here. Now, I think that, rather as you pulled me up by saying there was feminism before the 60s, I'm quite ready to acknowledge, I think that point was understood before Camille Paglia.
Well, but
Wouldn't you agree to that?
An assault on their maleness and manhood. And that's where we need to go. And if that's true, then we ought not have this conflict that you talk about, this rage that's setting in.
There will be conflict, but it need not be a war. In other words, nature is dialectical, right? And if you marry a man and a woman, you don't get a synthesis of male and femaleness. You get either a boy or a girl.
Right.
I think you were going to say something about power and balance.
Well, I'll come right back to it. Let me first.
Sorry if I...
No, but finish the point. I'll come right back to it and then...
I'm happy to yield, but I was merely going to say that what I said about Elizabeth Fox Genovese's point about all the men that there have to be in a woman's life, apart from sexually, and the number of masculine roles that men can play for women, holds true conversely. I mean, men have platonic girlfriends who they like, they have mothers, they have sisters, daughters even, things like that. Their relationship with women is always going to be extremely complicated, but you can't reduce it to a conflict of interest. See, I think objectification is an absolutely stupid word, and I'm fed up with it. I think it's being overused like empowerment. When I look at that picture, if you want to hold it up again,
yeah, no,
I don't regard Miss
Yeah.
Crawford. Miss Crawford, what I see there is not just a sexual object, though undoubtedly she is an object. Everyone else is an object to everyone else.
Yeah.
But I also see a subject. I mean, she's a great subject. Sex is a great subject.
Right.
Women are, in male conversation, a tremendous subject. I'm told the same is true the other way around.
And
yeah,
yet,
well, she did make that point about
Subjectification. In other words, if people talk a bit less about themselves
Yeah.
and how the personal is political, and the whole area of contestation is all to do with their own psyche and their own needs and dreads and feelings, and a bit more about society
how much of
and
this
others, I think we might get on a lot better.
Such a hard conflict to do for most of us.
It depends on how much trust. My God, I sound old-fashioned. I mean, and crusty too. But just like there used to be an argument, among feminists, but can it be true that the story of O was written by a woman? You must have all had this argument at some point and read it. And so I think it's very clear it was written by a woman, but I think it was written by a woman with men in mind. Some women will admit, we might even ask you, since we're letting it all hang out, to having rape fantasies that aren't completely pleasureless. But that's up to them. It doesn't mean that...
Getting into murky waters
no,
here.
I know we are. It doesn't mean, but they're entitled to do that. It may be pleasurable sometimes to imagine being ravished.
Well, no, but it's also true that
doesn't
little
mean that
girls
anyone
would
has
see
the right to
scenes
jump out while you're trying to get the groceries home and manhandle you.
But do know that part of the reason women have those fantasies is that Hollywood puts a glamorized sexy rape in 1 movie out of 8, so little girls grow up not seeing images of female desire.
I've met women who don't much go to the movies.
Yeah, you think it's just natural?
I don't know, but I have been told by women who trust me, in other words.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yes.
That they do have such.
Yeah, but these are not organic.
And I think it would be insulting for me to say, oh, I see, you have those fantasies, you've been watching too many movies. That would be an incredible thing.
But
that would be a very poor reward for a
constructed.
woman revealing her intimate thoughts to you, wouldn't it?
I think what's more interesting is...
Accuse her of being a cretin.
I just think it's obvious.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I'm not a fan of either Clinton, but since we're on the subject, it's
You're not a
good
fan
stuff.
of
either Clinton.
Either Clinton, Eastwood, or
No,
Clinton.
Hillary or Bill.
Okay. All right.
But there is an attractive story about how they met, which is told by her. Where they're in the library, law library, I believe, and she gets up and walks over to this guy, Bill, as it happens, and says, "If you're going to keep looking at me like that, it's time you knew my name."
Go, Hillary.
Go, girl!
No, that is a story about her that I've heard that I like.
Right, I do too.
Now,
Sexy.
when you think of what you
More
know
women
is
should
now,
be that way.
what is now going on in the libraries and campuses of this country, where men and women are sort of sitting on opposite sides of the thing,
Well,
looking at each other in sort of juvenile fear. I'm glad to hear it. There's a very important counterpoint to that, which offends a lot of civil libertarians of all genders, which is not the redefinition of rape, the redefinition of evidence, and the idea also that you can be accused by someone whose name you don't know.
Right, that's problematic. I think that
the anonymity of the one, in other words, corresponds to the proclamation of the other. You can be accused by an anonymous person. That's against the law. It's against the Constitution too.
Systems, we don't understand how hard it is.
So it never gets cold where you back in Australia?
Throughout the project, Ned dabbled in the art of picking up a woman.
Where'd your friend go?
We went with him to this bar wearing hidden cameras.
This is my friend JC, I'm Ned.
Nora was reminded that in this arena, it's women who have all the power.
We sit there and we, just with one word, no, will crush someone. And the thing is, we don't have to do the part where you cross the room and you go up to a stranger and say the first words. And those first words are so hard to say without sounding like a cheese ball or sounding like a jerk or whatever else.
And what do you guys do?
Nora says the brush-off Barbara Jones gave Ned was typical.
She was just sort of emblazoned with hostility. Just looked at you and you saw everything cross her face, which was, oh, God help me, not again. I'm trying to have a drink with a friend and I've got to deal with you.
Barbara was trying to dispose of Ned before her friend returned from the bathroom.
Anyway, we haven't seen each other in a while, so we're just catching up.
Yeah.
I've got to head out to Boston.
But Ned returned and told Barbara the truth about her gender.
Saying you gave us all the lines, like, trying to get rid of us. I see it, and as a woman, I have such sympathy. I'm like, oh, I hate being this guy that you're trying to get rid of.
Talking to a woman, Barbara seemed more open and friendly, and in the end, actually apologized for how she had treated Ned.
So
Sorry for being bitchy.
please.
Does that kind of living in the skin of a man in the bar scene, in the dating scene, give you a different kind of respect for men?
It gives me a certain definite sympathy. And I don't mean that there's any disrespect, but it just makes me understand what's going on.
Nora, as Ned, also went on about 30 dates with women, mostly arranging them on the internet.
Did you have any fun?
Rarely. It was
just
pretty
an ordeal.
Unpleasant. Yeah.
She says the pressure of Ned having to prove himself was grueling. Nora was surprised that many women had no interest in a soft, vulnerable man.
My prejudice was that the ideal man is a woman in a man's body. And I learned, no, that's really not. There are a lot of women out there who really want a manly man.
Ultimately, Ned told most of his dates that he was Nora. Many of the women reacted angrily, but usually just for a little while. Some women wanted to continue the relationship.
They remained interested in pursuing something further, you know, so whereas...
Sexually.
Yeah, and that was heterosexual women who, that's what I'm saying. It's all up here, because they said, well, we connected, and, you know, there's something, I really like you, and I don't care. How many guys would do that? That's the difference between male and female sexuality right there.
Nora says she found differences not only in sexuality and intimacy, but in every walk of life.
I'm in the market for a car, and
Take, for example, shopping for a new car. Going in as Nora, the sales pitch quickly becomes flirtatious.
Any guy that gets in, it's going to feel like, okay, this girl's...
I want to date this girl just for a car.
Well, all right, well, I didn't say it.
But going back to the same salesman as Ned, the tone was all business, and the talk was all about performance.
They have the 3-liter Duratec V6 engine.
And in the end, a personal touch for Nora the salesman would never have offered Ned.
All right?
Thank you
You're
so much.
welcome.
In Nora's final months as Ned, she upped the ante, infiltrating all male inner sanctums. But after 18 months of deception, she was unraveling, and the play acting at a men's wilderness encounter group would begin to scare her.
One guy had chopped up a log pretending it was his wife. So I thought, great, you know, we're going to have axes and knives. So I was terrified.
Having survived strip clubs, dating, and a bowling league, Nora Vincent wanted Ned's last days to be among men only, in private and intimate surroundings. Nora, a lapsed Catholic, thought the cloistered inner world of a monastery would be ideal. Ned managed to live for 3 weeks as a trainee. The monks, she says, were pious, smart men, but they were still men.
What made it prototypically male? What do you mean by that?
The breakdown in communication, the desperate need for male intimacy and the lack of ability to give it really